This is crazy, you guys. I've been sitting here at this gas station for like 30 minutes now, and if you guys saw the previous video, we said that we're going racing this weekend, and that is where I was headed to. I'm about an hour into my drive in my KRX. I got all my stuff right here in the back: slicks, jack, computer, scooter, the whole nine. I'm an hour into my drive and the car shut off for me on the freeway. It sounded like a fuel pump turning off because it abruptly shut off. Like RPM went straight to 0 and the car wouldn't turn back on. I'm literally causing traffic, and I finally get it to turn over and it stumbles, so it's like really hard to drive it. And I was able to exit and get to this gas station, and I've been sitting here trying to figure out what's going on. I turned it on just a second ago and it turns on. It sounds fine. But do I want to risk driving to the track another 2.5 hours? Or do I turn around and go home? If you guys have been following the channel for quite some time, you guys know I've had not the greatest luck at Bakersfield. And no matter how many times I've driven my car on the street and everywhere else but Bakersfield, my car drives beautiful. Every time I go to Bakersfield or have an idea of going to Bakersfield, my cars tend to have problems. If you guys also been following the KRX build, this car has not had a real single issue in the last 6 years since I've built this car. Today, going to Bakersfield, the fuel pump dies, or it's like on and off. I've talked to a lot of friends trying to figure out what to do, and everybody has told me to take the sign, turn around, and go home. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Unfortunately, we're not gonna be racing. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to limp this car home because I'm about an hour away, and I'm not sure if I want to take the inside street or drive on the slow lane on the freeway. But let's get back home. Let's put some work in the CRV instead. So I've been home for about an hour now, and I cleaned out my car of all the stuff I was taking to the track. And on the way home, I was driving in the slow lane all the way. On the way home, when I got to my exit, it shut off. It shut off when I was on the incline of my exit. And I know it's not that it doesn't have gas, because I put a full tank in this car before I drove it. And I probably drove it about 35 miles before the car shutting off on the freeway. So I know we have gas, but it shut off on the incline, but it turned right over. The car made it home, and it's hard to tell if the fuel pressure is dropping because the gauge is inside the car. I talked to the homie Nomis. I think when I do the whole swaparoo and everything, I'm gonna add a fuel pressure sensor, and it's also a good thing to have to tie into the ECU for like more fail-safe feature. But I already have an oil pressure gauge, water temp gauge. I'm probably gonna put a fuel pressure gauge in it as well. The fuel pump in the tank is a Walbro 255. I put in it like 6 years ago, and I don't know if it's like going bad or what, but we're gonna upgrade it to a 450 anyway. So we're gonna dive into that fuel pump when we start taking apart that car. Today I want to still make some progress. We're gonna revert our focus over to the CRV, which is right here in the background, and we're gonna be prepping the B16 to go into the car. Not today, but to prep the entire engine to be ready to go back into the car. So B16a2, this is already an OBD2 engine, and he actually bought this from another friend, and apparently it was a running engine. Now when the engine got delivered, I did notice that it did have spider webs on it. Like, it sat for a little while. I don't know the history of it, but the homie said it did run before. And what I'm going to do is pretty much before I even get started on putting stuff onto this engine, I most definitely want to clean it. I don't want to send it in the way it looks. I do want to kind of get a lot of that grime off, at least make it look something like this. Same thing for the transmission. There's a bunch of I guess old leak kind of caked up on there. I wish I had more acid cleaner, but I don't. But I do have a can of oven cleaner right there. So I'm gonna try our best to clean it at least one round, and then we're gonna start installing all the parts that needs to go on before it go into its home location here. I'll give you guys a look all around the engine and the transmission. All right, let's clean it up. Guys, check it out. One round of oven cleaner and a wheel brush later, transmission is looking a lot cleaner. The B16 in the sun glare, look at that. This thing cleaned up really nice. I really think somebody cleaned this beforehand, and the dirt and oil just kind of caked up on top of that, which made it a lot easy to like take off the grimes this time around. It looks really freaking good, right? So I just realized that this is a P73 Type R intake manifold. This is what I want on my B18C and the JDM EF2, because I have a Skunk 2 in that car. It's a full B18C. This will make more sense, but it is what it is. So we're losing the sun, and I did spend quite a bit of time to try to get everything we need that we have that we can use from this, my bins, and just spare parts to assemble this B16. So before we get started, just want to show you guys, if you watched the video where we did the head gasket and all that, I had a hard time trying to time this engine, and I was talking about how the crank keyway hole is all sheared off. You guys see that? That's why it was so hard for me to do the timing, because it would shift left and right, and I kept feeling like it was a tooth off. And then when I did it like 20 million times, I realized then that this was smushed out. So hopefully we don't have that issue with the B16. It looks good there. And first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to reset the timing, valve lash, and then we're going to throw everything that we have for the B16. Underneath the valve cover here, the valve train looks really good, but I did notice that somebody swapped out these bolts right here, and these are very common to snap in half if you over torque it or use a gun on them. This hardware came off, which is supposed to look like this, so I'm definitely gonna have to pop it off right there. And another thing too is that somebody had painted this valve cover numerous of times, and I noticed it because of how thick and how many layers of paint is right there. And look at this big ass no-no overspray inside the valve cover. This goes through your engine, goes down into your pan, and clogs up your oil pickup tube and starves your engine of oil. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this valve cover. I'm probably gonna have them like get a different one or something, because look at this. That is no bueno. No bueno. This is all overspray. Look at this. All overspray. Oh my goodness. I just noticed that this might be an eBay oil pump. DNJ, I've seen that before. Yeah, hopefully this pump is gonna hold up to what we're gonna do with it. Somebody did swap out the water pump and tensioner and stuff before too, NPW, and I'm just gonna tighten up the tensioner just to kind of take away the slack a little bit, because that's a lot. All right. Rotate 90. Watch the cam gear. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and knock out 3, 4, and then 2. Post mount. Make sure you guys are using the shorter bolts, because it aligns the post mount where it's supposed to be. B20 OBD2 lower timing cover. It is an OBD2 oil pump as well, B16a2. Wow. We have the keyway right there. Three Uggas. For the turbo feed line. Alternator bracket looks like somebody already took it off before. It's already loose on here. These are the bolts for the thinner bracket, and then this one's for the thicker one. If you look, this one has a little like shoulder on it, and if you try to use this on the thinner bracket, you're definitely gonna either crack the block or strip the threads out. Use the correct hardware. Outer air control valve, got a little gunk in there. $70mm. Okay, so we got a bunch of gaskets right here. In case you guys didn't know, if you have that fast idle valve, your gasket's gonna be a little longer, like these guys right here, right? We need one that does not have it, and it looks like this one right here is shorter. Yeah, you can see it's shorter right there. So this way. Oh yeah, perfect. B20 throttle body, already cleaned the bottom side here. On the B20, the outer air control valve coolant comes off the upper water neck, and on the B16 Type R manifold, there's another port like this behind this guy here that we need to cap off because we're not using it. Yep, that will work. This was a new thermostat we changed in the CRV before tearing the motor apart, and we're gonna throw it back in here because it didn't come with one. I just noticed that the VTEC solenoid only has one bolt right here. I'm gonna pull this off to make sure there's a gasket in it, and then find some hardware to secure it into place. I'm gonna go ahead and bolt on the torque mount just so that we don't go and put it back into the garage. The B20 bracket fits perfectly on the B16 short block. throw on the return line since I took it off with the engine. This makes sense. This makes all the sense. Not to extract that right there. This one looks okay. We need the IAT sensor. I did find my little bag of sensors right there, and I'm sure I have 1 or 2 in there. There's one, and there's another one right there. I'm gonna clean the sensor a little bit, and I hope that it works. If it throws a check engine light, I guess a junkyard trip is in our near future, huh? H Day is live right now on Instagram. This is Bakersfield right here.
And if you're gonna be in Cali, make sure you don't miss it, man. Because honestly, I know we said it last year. I don't know how we got back there right now. I don't know. But we're there October 10th through 11th. Don't miss it. We appreciate you.
You guys heard it, man. H Day's coming back to Cali October 10th and 11th. Let's go. That's freaking awesome. I thought the Amazon package was going to show up today with the dash 10 steel bungs, but it's actually showing up tomorrow. Today I'm still going to pop the oil pan off just to check it to make sure there's no shavings or any paint in the bottom of the pan. Probably going to shim the oil pump as well too. So I actually took off earlier to go visit my dad. I drove the blue all-wheel drive sedan to kind of get some motivation going, you know, because H Day is around the corner. Seeing their live stream yesterday was like a little motivation to kind of get me started in all these swaps between the cars. But anyways, the CRV is going to come first, obviously. The valve cover itself, I told Eric to get another valve cover, but it's hard to find a B series valve cover right now, and if you do find one, they're expensive, right? So I told him, I said, all right, for the time being, because I want to close the engine up, I'm going to wire wheel the inside of the valve cover to get most of the paint off. Probably 95% of the paint is off, other than some thick, tight to get areas like right there. I'm not worried about it because it looks much more cleaner on the inside. So I've already thoroughly cleaned the valve cover, and I even dunked it in the water just to kind of like get whatever to float out of it. So valve cover is about to go back on in a minute here. I also took off all the studs, the Resto Tuner studs from the B20, all taken off, all right here. I'm gonna put that onto the B16 as well. But I'm trying to make some progress today, because once that bung comes in, we can do the pan, the engine can drop, we can do the flywheel, clutch, transmission, and I'm not sure, I might throw it in the car. If not, the engine will be ready to go into the car. Valve cover on. I'm gonna leave the wrench in the stud, thread it into the cylinder head, drive it in, use the wrench to kind of snug tug it. There is a little shoulder on the stud, so it kind of tells you when you need to stop. So I'm gonna snug it, and I'm gonna hold it, back out the nut, back out the second nut. And there's your stud, and there's the rest. All the studs are on. We're gonna leave the nuts in the box for when we put the turbo manifold on. Right now I'm gonna go ahead and drain the oil and flip the engine over so we can pop the pan off. Guys, what in the blue F is going on with this oil pan? Holy snout. What the heck happened here, dude? Not only that, broken stud, broken stud, broken stud. Yo. Shit, Facebook Marketplace. This half of the hardware was super tight. This half of the hardware was super loose. Kind of weird. The pan, no effort to take off. Look at that. No effort. Which is good. because that means the rubber is soft and we don't have to spend a lot of time to kind of like scrape off old gasket, which obviously, granted, the oil pump has been replaced before. It probably had a new gasket put onto it. It looks like it's smushed a little bit, but not bad, but very questionable. I will say no shavings in here whatsoever, so that's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean the surface of the block and the oil pan as well too. We are gonna put a washer in here to bump up the oil pressure, just because we're already here and this is an aftermarket oil pump. So the pan, this little dent right here, I have no access to it. It's underneath a baffle and I don't have anything to get in between that to pop it out. Now I don't think it'll be a big issue. Granted, it's in that corner, but all the other areas right here, I did punch it out to make sure we have clearance to the pickup tube, right? Because all of this was smushed in. You can see all the scratch marks and stuff. Probably the car was low or something, because you got to be really low for this to catch. I'm not sure if that's like a little tear right there, but I'm gonna let some water sit inside of this overnight to make sure we're not leaking. And it's clean for the most part. This is all brake cleaner, but yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just kind of clean it for right now, pick back up tomorrow when the bung shows up, so we can bung the pan, put it on, drop the engine, and mate it up with the transmission. Waited all day, guys, and Amazon finally showed up. We should have all the fuel stuff right here, and hopefully in one of these packages we have the -10 steel bung. We have Sintly PTFE-6 lines. We're going to be converting this thing to PTFE because we are planning for E85. These are all the tube adapter. We'll dive into this a little bit later. This package right here is the tabs for my cowl for either the KRX or the silver sedan, and we're going to install that also at a later time. What we were waiting for are these -10 steel bungs. Not the style that I prefer, but you know what? It'll work just the same. I'm gonna set up this car to have a catch can from the block instead of the valve cover. So we got to eliminate this PCV box. You can buy the fitting that goes into this hole right here, which has a -10 coming out of it, and then you can run it to your catch can. But because we're using what we have, I don't have this specific fitting, so I'm gonna be plugging it off. I'm using the expansion rubber plug right here. It is a 1 1/4 to 1 3/8. Looks like this. That right there is not going anywhere. I'm gonna remove these two Allen plugs right here on the back of the block, and we're gonna replace them with these -10 fittings. And I could just run one line, but typically when you buy catch cans, they come with two bungs on it, so we may as well utilize both of them. I have this throwback BWR block plugs right here, so that's gonna go in place like so. Be sure to not hit this with the impact because it's aluminum. It will strip so quickly, but we have two -10 bungs for when we do the catch can. I'm gonna block this vacuum line off because when this engine goes under boost a little bit, it is gonna build a little bit of crankcase pressure and oil is gonna drip out of this just a little bit. I'm gonna leave this one open because I'm gonna disconnect the line right here to the intake manifold and just kind of sit there for whatever reason. If it goes back to factory, he can put that box back on and that line will be right there ready to go. All right guys, so before I pull the engine off the stand, I'm going to install the engine harness onto it. And it's easier to put the harness on now rather than put the engine in the car than fight around the intake manifold, especially if you got big arms like mine to try to put the harness in. In the case of this CRV, we are going to be using the factory engine harness. Now if your car's automatic and it was swapped over to, you know, manual, you can still use the automatic harness. You're just going to have a bunch of extra plugs lying around. So the CRV harness, everything should be practically plug and play, and if there is something that does not fit or work or is too short, I'll show you guys pretty much, you know, making it all work with the B16a2. First, identify which side of the harness goes where. This is the passenger side with the injectors, so I'm going to swing this over here. All right guys, so engine harness, for the most part, everything connected, right? So right here in the front, we have ECT sensor, plugs right up. We have the engine coolant temp, which goes to your cluster. Right here, all these sensors are on the transmission. So this is VSS that goes in the back of the trans. This one right here is reverse light switch. This one right here is for the starter signal. And then moving over here, we have distributor. This is the 8-pin. And then we have the map sensor, which oddly enough, the CRV map sensor plug is with the distributor, where most B series, it's sitting back here. But anyways, distributor, map sensor. Right here, we have the fan plug. We have the ground, very important. This long harness right here goes inside the car. This part right here goes to the fuse box. I routed in between the hose because it was tight underneath and over, so I went right through it. And then right here in the back side, we have outer control valve plugged right in, TPS sensor plugged right in. And then we have all these like power distribution or ground block that's just gonna hang out. On the B20, it has brackets where it kind of clips into and kind of like just kind of hold the harness in place, but I mean, it dangling is not a big problem. Oil pressure sensor right here in the back. This one right here is O2 sensor, which we're not gonna need in the Honda when we run that. This right here is for power steering. It goes on the subframe right there. And then going around, alternator power wire. I routed the crank sensor on the back side of the alternator, where on the B20 it came this way with a bracket. And this right here goes to the oil pump right here, away from the alternator. If I ran it upward, it probably hit right here. And then this harness going up is injectors. This one right here is IAT, which plugs in the same as the B20, although the flanges are different. And then we have this one plug right here that's not hooked up because we're not running it, which is this guy right here. When we run the S300, it's not going to call for that. And then this harness right here goes onto the shock tower plug. So everything for the most part is plugged in. When we get into the ECU portion, the OBD1 ECU conversion to the CRV, because this car is OBD2, I'll show you guys the VTEC wiring part, which is this guy here, VTEC pressure switch, and the knock sensor. So really quickly, the knock sensor is this wire right here, and the B16a2 is a circular plug. The OBD2 B20 is a kind of squarish plug. So fortunate for us, we have both engines. This is the B16a2 round, CRV squared. So I took it off because we're going to change it out, and realistically I always disable the knock sensor anyways, but because we have it, we're just going to plug it in. So I did go to the parts store and I went to go grab a new release bearing right here, because the one that I thought I had, this guy right here, is actually for a cable transmission, which is a little bit different on the tabs. So I got a new one right here. I already cleaned up the fork and the spring. Gonna put some grease on it so we can install it back into the transmission, and then install the transmission on the engine. It's gonna be a little tricky because I have a tiny dolly, and when the trans go on, it's gonna tilt. All my big dollies are with the other engines over there, and I gotta get a little creative with this right here. And also the transfer case makes it really heavy. Guys, the biggest rookie mistake I've done in a very long time. I should have checked the clutch when Eric first dropped it off to see if it fit the transmission. I've been fighting the transmission to the block for an hour and a half, man. Wasted an hour and a half, realizing then when I decided to take out the clutch that the clutch does not fit the shaft of the CRV transmission. If you guys don't know, the Integras have two spline transmission, one small, one big, typically for the DA, the small spline. And that ad on Facebook said it came out of an Integra, but it didn't specify what Integra. And apparently this is for a small spline transmission. So I've been fighting and fighting and fighting, and decided to take it off and realized that it doesn't fit at all. Man, we are on a major setback with this right now, because I just got off the phone with Eric. He told me, man, you know, given the circumstances, he's down to buy a new clutch and possibly flywheel while we're in this predicament, and that means we're gonna have to wait several days in between for it to show up to continue work with putting this B16 back into the car. It sucks, man, but sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumble. That is my mistake when you buy a used clutch. If you don't have a description, double check it to the transmission. So as far as all of this goes, I was hoping to just get this whole entire thing made it up so we can swap it in tomorrow, but you know, now we got to play the waiting game. So this video, I'm gonna wrap it up right here, guys. It's late, it's like 11 o'clock. I'm sweating bullets, and this transmission kicked my butt. So I hope you guys enjoy a little bit of the CRV engine assembly, the setup that we're gonna be putting back into this car. If you guys enjoyed this one, be sure to leave a thumbs up, and if you guys want to stick around for the engine going back into the car, the Honda, the whole first startup, Honda 2 injector, the whole nine, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.